Utah, USA truly split open. The camera captured an extraordinary scene. A bizarre shape emerged in the empty blue sky.
Stay behind the truck, all right?
Could the strange moments unfolding around the world right now be warning signs we are running out of time to understand? The sky flickers, reflections reveal what the eye cannot fully grasp, and even the moon seems to hesitate, as though reality itself is shifting. A living spiral rises from the ground. Strange patterns appear in remote deserts with no footprints, and a perfectly straight line stretches across the sky as though something solid rests above us. Storm clouds glow with unnatural colors, silent orbs hover and dart through the darkness, and lightning briefly forms shapes that leave viewers shaken. A luminous winged being glides through the night, while from a forgotten desert well, chilling screams echo upward. 10 moments. 10 disturbances appearing in different places, yet building the same uneasy feeling. The sky looks unfamiliar, the earth feels unsettled, and the boundary between the visible and the unseen seems thinner than ever. These are not isolated clips. Together, they form a rising sequence, each event intensifying the last and pointing towards something far more serious, something that feels closer than many expect. Have you ever witnessed something that made you question your own eyes? Do these strange occurrences make the world harder to understand? Could these signs be connected in ways we have not fully realized? Stay with us, because the first event already begins to reveal how this unsettling story starts to unfold. 1. Mirror showing another reality. Inside a quiet cottage, a simple recording suddenly turned into a moment that unsettled everyone in the room. The camera faced a mirror reflecting heavy snowfall outside, thick flakes falling steadily across the glass. Yet when the lens shifted toward the actual window, the sky looked completely calm. No snow, no wind, no sign of winter at all. The reflection continued to show a storm that did not exist in reality. Voices grew tense, confusion filled the silence, and what began as an ordinary winter evening felt like a glimpse into two overlapping worlds. The clip lasted only a few seconds, yet it quickly spread online, drawing thousands of viewers who replayed the moment again and again. Every frame showed the same contradiction: snow visible in the mirror, clear skies outside. People walked closer to the window, and their reflections moved naturally. This detail made the moment even more disturbing. The snowfall remained trapped inside the mirror's image, while everything else aligned perfectly. The more viewers studied the footage, the stronger the unease became, raising the possibility that reality itself had briefly split. James 1:17 speaks of the unchanging authority above every visible phenomenon. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and comes down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow of turning. These words remind believers that when the world appears unstable, God remains constant, sovereign over both what is seen and what is hidden. Some viewers began to interpret the strange reflection not as confusion, but as a subtle reminder that human perception is limited, while divine truth stands beyond ordinary understanding. Some suggested that the angle of the mirror created an illusion, yet the explanation felt incomplete. The snowfall appeared dense and consistent, not distorted or fragmented. The reflections of people aligned perfectly, meaning the mirror accurately represented movement but altered the environment. This contradiction deepened the uncertainty. Instead of calming the situation, the proposed explanation left more questions unanswered, and the event felt less like a visual trick and more like a brief interruption in the natural order. 2 Corinthians 4:18 offers another perspective. While we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporary, but the things which are not seen are eternal. Many believers see in this verse a quiet reminder that reality extends beyond human senses. A mirror showing snowfall while the window remains calm can feel symbolic, suggesting that unseen dimensions may exist just beyond ordinary sight, fully known only to God. When moments like this appear, they create urgency. Perception can be shaken in seconds, reminding humanity not to rely solely on what the eyes observe. Faith becomes the anchor when the visible world grows uncertain. The calm room, the silent window, and the impossible reflection together form a gentle but unsettling warning that something deeper may be unfolding. The stillness did not last long. Attention soon shifted upward, where the night sky itself began to behave in a way that felt even more unnatural. 2. Moon glitched in the sky. Above the city of Chicago, the night appeared calm, but yet something in the heavens suddenly disrupted that stillness with quiet intensity. A witness lifted a camera toward the moon, expecting an ordinary view, but the image that appeared felt deeply unsettling. The moon did not remain steady. It seemed to shift abruptly, pausing and jumping in place, like the sky itself was hesitating. No clouds crossed the frame, no aircraft passed by, and the darkness remained completely still. The moment lasted only seconds, yet it carried the strange impression that the heavens had briefly lost their rhythm. Joel 2:31 offers a powerful reminder of celestial signs. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes. These words speak of the sky changing in ways that capture attention and stir reflection. The trembling moon over Chicago caused many to recall that Scripture often presents the heavens as a canvas through which God reveals warnings. When the moon appears unstable, believers are reminded that creation responds to the will of its creator, and even a quiet night can carry meaning. The short clip quickly spread, and viewers began studying it frame by frame. The moon flickered in position without any visible cause. The surrounding stars stayed fixed, the horizon remained unmoved, and the camera itself did not shake. This contrast deepened the mystery. People replayed the recording repeatedly, slowing it down, searching for any detail that could explain the motion. Every repetition reinforced the same unsettling impression. The sky seemed to pause, then continue, as though time itself had been gently interrupted. Some observers suggested a camera malfunction, yet the idea did not fully settle the concern. The frame remained stable, surrounding lights stayed constant, and only the moon displayed unusual movement. Others proposed atmospheric distortion, though the sky appeared clear and undisturbed. These explanations sounded technical, yet they did not remove the sense that something deeper had occurred. The more ordinary reasons were proposed, the more the event felt like a subtle signal rather than a simple visual anomaly. Luke 21:25 speaks with striking clarity about moments like this. And there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars, and on the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. This verse connects heavenly disturbances with human uncertainty. The trembling moon did not create chaos in the streets, yet it produced perplexity, a quiet confusion that spread among those who watched. Scripture reminds believers that such signs invite awareness, reflection, and renewed trust in God's sovereignty. When the heavens show even the slightest irregularity, humanity is gently urged to pay attention. The steady rhythm of night and day has always symbolized stability, so any deviation feels significant. The moon above Chicago did not blaze or roar, yet its subtle movement stirred deep unease. That quiet disturbance becomes meaningful when viewed through faith, suggesting that God sometimes whispers through creation before louder warnings appear. The sky gradually returned to stillness, but the sense of tension did not fade. Focus soon shifted downward, where something was beginning to rise from the earth in a form few had ever witnessed. 3. Living swarm tornado. In an unknown location, a scene unfolded that felt less like weather and more like a warning written across the air. Witnesses looked upward and saw a towering spiral climbing into the sky. It moved with the shape of a tornado, yet no wind tore across the ground and no debris circled the horizon. The column itself was alive. Countless mosquitoes gathered into a dense funnel, twisting upward like dark smoke. The swarm grew thicker, blotting out parts of the view, and the sound of wings filled the silence. People stepped back in shock, sensing that this was not a natural storm but something far more unsettling. The footage showed the swarm maintaining its shape with unnatural precision. The insects did not scatter randomly. They rose together, rotating in a tight column that stretched higher and higher. It looked controlled, not chaotic. The air seemed heavy, and the spiral appeared deliberate, almost purposeful. A storm made of creatures, silent yet overwhelming, stirred memories of ancient plagues. Many who saw the clip felt that creation itself was drawing attention, reminding humanity that even the smallest creatures can become instruments in the hands of God. Exodus 8:16-17 records a moment when the natural world became a sign. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Say to Aaron, stretch out your staff and strike the dust of the earth, so that it may become gnats in all the land of Egypt." And they did so. Aaron stretched out his hand with his staff and struck the dust of the earth, and there were gnats on man and beast. All the dust of the earth became gnats in all the land of Egypt. These words reveal how swarms once served as divine warnings. The spiral of mosquitoes rising into the sky echoes that memory, suggesting that God can again use the smallest elements of creation to call humanity to attention. Some might attempt to describe this as a simple gathering of insects. Yet the organized movement and sheer density challenged that thought. The column held its form, climbing steadily without breaking apart. The eerie quiet surrounding it deepened the unease. Rather than calming observers, the sight intensified reflection. The swarm appeared less like coincidence and more like a sign, a living reminder that power does not always arrive through thunder. Revelation 9:3 speaks of another unsettling image. Then out of the smoke locusts came upon the earth, and to them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. This verse connects swarming creatures with moments of judgment. The living spiral in the sky stirred thoughts of these prophetic images, urging viewers to consider that unusual gatherings of insects may carry deeper meaning. The sight left a lingering tension, not because of what had already happened, but because of what such signs might foreshadow. And while the swarm slowly faded from view, another mysterious mark was already waiting, etched upon the earth itself. 4. Mysterious patterns marked on desert floor. Across a dried lake bed in the Oregon desert, an enormous pattern appeared without warning, carved into the earth with striking precision. The lines stretched across the cracked surface in geometric symmetry, forming shapes that looked deliberate and measured. There were no footprints surrounding it, no tire marks leading in or out, and no sign of machinery. The ground remained undisturbed beyond the design itself. Witnesses described the sight as chilling, not because of size alone, but because of the silence surrounding its creation. The desert offered no sound, no movement, no trace of human presence, yet the mark stood clearly, as though placed by unseen hands. The pattern was visible from the air. Investigators examined the area carefully, searching for any evidence of physical work. The lake bed soil remained fragile, easily marked by pressure, yet nothing indicated how the pattern had been formed. Military officials who visited the site admitted confusion, noting the absence of tracks. The lines appeared clean and consistent, suggesting intention rather than randomness. Many observers felt that the Earth itself had been used as a canvas. The design did not resemble damage or erosion. Instead, it looked purposeful, almost like a message written directly into creation. Job 38:4-5 presents a profound reminder of divine authorship over the earth. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me, if you have understanding, who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? These words speak of God measuring the world with precision. The pattern in the Oregon desert echoed that imagery. Straight lines, calculated shapes, and perfect spacing appeared as though drawn with intentional design. Many believers saw this not as coincidence, but as a subtle reminder that the Creator who once measured the earth can also inscribe upon it. Some suggested human involvement, yet the lack of physical traces challenged that idea. The surface around the pattern remained untouched, and the scale of the design required coordinated effort. Others speculated about unknown forces, though such ideas left the central question unanswered. The formation seemed less like an accident and more like a deliberate sign. The desert, often associated with silence and revelation, now carried a mark that stirred contemplation. Rather than providing clarity, each theory deepened the sense that the message lay beyond ordinary explanation. Daniel 5:5 records a moment when a mysterious writing appeared without a human hand. In the same hour, the fingers of a man's hand appeared and wrote opposite the lampstand on the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. This verse describes a divine inscription that caused fear and reflection. The desert pattern felt similar in spirit, a message placed where none expected it. The absence of footprints reinforced the idea of unseen authorship. For those watching, the earth itself seemed to speak quietly, urging attention to the possibility that God sometimes writes warnings across landscapes. The pattern remained without explanation, resting under the open sky, silent yet powerful. Viewers felt drawn to consider whether such markings signal preparation for events yet to unfold. When the ground bears unexplained designs, the mind naturally turns upward, searching for meaning. The desert kept its secret, yet the sense of anticipation grew stronger. Eyes shifted toward the heavens, where a new formation was beginning to stretch across the sky with remarkable precision. 5. Straight line written across the heavens. A bright white line suddenly stretched across the sky, running from one horizon to the other with startling precision. Witnesses stared upward, trying to understand what they were seeing. The line remained perfectly straight, unlike ordinary trails that bend, scatter, or dissolve. No aircraft passed overhead, no sound echoed in the air, and the sky remained clear. The most unsettling detail appeared when the line cast a visible shadow below, something impossible without a solid surface. People watched in silence, sensing that the heavens themselves had revealed a structure hidden beyond human sight. The formation held its shape without fading. The brightness remained consistent, and the edges appeared sharp, not blurred. This was not fading. It stayed perfectly straight. Observers described the moment as deeply moving because the sky no longer looked empty. Instead, it seemed like a boundary had been briefly outlined. The shadow beneath the line suggested depth and solidity. The idea that the heavens might contain a firm structure stirred both awe and reverence. Genesis 1:6-7 describes the firmament with remarkable clarity. Then God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." Thus God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. These words present the heavens as something intentionally formed. The straight line across the sky echoed this description, appearing like a visible boundary. For many believers, the sight felt like confirmation that the structure spoken of in Scripture still stands, upheld by God's power. The sky offered no cloud layer for projection, and no visible source of illumination appeared nearby. The line remained unwavering, not drifting or dissolving. Rather than easing concern, these details deepened reflection. The formation seemed purposeful, not random. The heavens appeared to communicate order, suggesting that God sometimes allows subtle revelations of His creation to strengthen faith and draw attention upward. Psalm 19:1 declares the testimony of the sky. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows His handiwork. This verse speaks directly to moments like this. A straight, luminous line across the sky, accompanied by a shadow, feels like a declaration written in light. The firmament mentioned in Scripture becomes more than an ancient concept. It appears tangible, briefly revealed for those willing to observe. The line slowly faded, yet the impression remained. Those who witnessed it felt that the heavens had opened a small window into divine order. When the sky itself hints at structure, attention naturally shifts to what might follow. The horizon returned to calm, but the sense of anticipation did not disappear. Soon, the sky began to change again, this time not in shape, but in color, transforming the atmosphere into something far more astonishing. 6. Sky turned unnatural colors. A powerful storm approached parts of Florida, yet the most unsettling detail did not come from thunder or rain. The sky itself began to transform into colors rarely seen. In one area, the clouds glowed with a deep purple tone, rich and intense, spreading across the horizon. In another location, the sky shifted into a strange green shade that illuminated the landscape below. Residents pointed their cameras upward, their voices filled with disbelief. Some people stepped back in fear. The transformation appeared sudden and overwhelming, turning an ordinary storm into something that felt charged with meaning. The atmosphere grew heavy, and many sensed that the heavens were sending a message rather than simply displaying weather. The colors remained steady throughout the storm. They did not flicker or fade quickly, but lingered across the sky while lightning flashed in the distance. Observers described the scene as unreal, almost like the world had briefly changed its palette. Streets glowed under the unusual light, and silhouettes of buildings looked different beneath the tinted clouds. People gathered outside, watching in silence, unsure of what they were witnessing. The visual impact created a sense of urgency, suggesting that the sky itself was being altered under divine authority. This was not just a passing cloud formation, but a striking shift that drew attention upward. Revelation 6:12 speaks of dramatic celestial changes. I looked when He opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake. And the sun became black as a sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood. This verse describes the sky-changing appearance as part of a larger warning. The unusual purple and green tones seen during the storm caused many to recall such imagery. The heavens, once predictable, seemed capable of transformation at any moment. Believers felt reminded that God can use the sky to signal times of reflection and preparation. Some observers attempted to attribute the colors to atmospheric reactions, yet the emotional impact remained. The uniform glow stretched across wide areas, not limited to a single cloud. The consistency of color gave the impression of intention. Rather than reducing concern, explanations left a lingering sense that the event carried deeper meaning. The sky appeared almost painted, deliberate, and striking. Many viewers felt that creation was shifting in subtle ways, urging humanity to look upward and recognize that God's authority extends over every storm. Acts 2:19-20 offers another perspective. I will show wonders in heaven above and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the coming of the great and awesome day of the Lord. These words speak of extraordinary signs appearing in the heavens. The unusual colors in Florida resonated with this idea, reminding believers that the sky can display wonders that call for attention. The storm passed, yet the memory of the glowing sky remained, leaving many with a quiet sense of concern. The clouds eventually returned to normal shades, but the impression of those colors lingered in the minds of those who saw them. When the heavens display unfamiliar tones, the feeling of warning grows stronger. The sky darkened again, and the storm drifted away, yet the tension did not fully disappear. As night settled in, faint lights began to appear above the horizon, moving with a precision that would deepen the sense of unease. Unquote. 7. Silent orbs moving in formation. In the quiet night sky above Mounds, Oklahoma, several glowing orbs appeared without warning, hovering silently above the horizon. Witnesses pointed their phones upward, their voices tense, watching the lights hold position as though suspended by unseen hands. The orbs shone steadily, not flickering like distant aircraft, and they maintained a precise formation. Within moments, the lights began to move together, gliding across the sky at remarkable speed. Police were called, vehicles gathered below, and officers attempted to follow the motion, yet the orbs changed direction effortlessly, remaining far beyond reach. The silence surrounding them created a chilling atmosphere, as though the sky itself had released watchers into the night. The formation remained tight while the lights accelerated. Observers described the movement as controlled and deliberate. The orbs neither scattered nor dimmed, instead drifting in harmony, then suddenly shifting position. This coordination heightened the sense of unease. The night felt heavier, and the glowing shapes appeared purposeful rather than random. Some viewers later connected the sight to ancient warnings about deceptive lights in the heavens. The idea that luminous forms could descend stirred deep concern, especially because the lights seemed aware of their surroundings, vanishing only after holding attention long enough to leave a lasting impression. 2 Corinthians 11:14 speaks directly to the nature of deceptive brilliance. And no wonder, for Satan himself transforms himself into an angel of light. This verse reminds believers that not every light in the sky represents goodness. The glowing orbs, beautiful yet unsettling, reflected this warning. Their brightness attracted attention, yet their silence and precision created fear. Many felt that the light served as a reminder that appearances can conceal deeper realities, and that spiritual discernment becomes essential when unusual signs appear above. Some suggested distant drones or aircraft, yet the speed and coordination seemed unusual. The lights moved without visible propulsion, maintaining formation even while changing direction. Instead of calming observers, these ideas left lingering doubt. The orbs appeared detached from ordinary motion. Their glow remained constant, neither blinking nor fading. This consistency intensified the feeling that the sight carried significance beyond simple explanation. Witnesses stepped back, sensing that the lights might represent a warning, urging humanity to remain vigilant. Ephesians 6:12 offers a sobering perspective. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. These words describe unseen forces operating beyond ordinary perception. The hovering orbs seem to echo this idea, appearing in the heavens where spiritual struggle is often symbolized. Believers viewed the lights as a reminder that vigilance and faith are necessary when the sky itself displays unfamiliar activity. The orbs eventually disappeared into the darkness, leaving the night silent once again. Yet the memory of their coordinated movement lingered. When lights glide across the heavens with purpose, they stir both awe and concern. The sky settled into stillness, but the tension remained. Moments later, a sudden flash broke the darkness, and within that burst of light, a shape began to form in the clouds that would deepen the sense of mystery even further. 8. Figure appeared in lightning. A sudden burst of lightning illuminated the dark sky, and for a brief moment, an unexpected shape appeared within the clouds. The flash revealed what looked like a seated human figure, outlined by glowing edges, suspended above the horizon. The figure appeared only for a fraction of a second. Witnesses watched in silence, their eyes fixed on the heavens, feeling that the image carried deep meaning. The brightness faded, yet the impression remained clear in their minds. Many observers felt that the sky itself had briefly opened to reveal a sign placed there with intention. The stillness after the flash seemed filled with reverence, inviting reflection rather than doubt. Another clip captured a different cloud formation, forming a shape that resembled a familiar figure worshipped in other traditions. Viewers debated the meaning, yet the central reaction remained emotional. Some believed it represented divine presence. Are we witnessing warning signs of something far bigger than we are ready to face? Around the world, the sky is behaving in ways that feel impossible to ignore. Rings of fire spin above mountains. The night turns red over entire cities. Multiple glowing orbs rise where only one sun should exist. Strange lights pulse while the horizon seems to fracture. These are not isolated moments. They are 10 separate events, captured in different places, yet connected by one unsettling pattern. Each one grows more disturbing than the last. If these signs are related, what are they trying to reveal? Let us begin with the first sign. 1. The sky begins to ripple. In Kansas, the sky suddenly began to ripple, like water disturbed by an unseen force. What had moments earlier been a calm, open horizon shifted into a trembling surface of layered clouds folding inward. The formations did not move like an approaching storm. Instead, they bent and curved in overlapping waves, as though an invisible hand were pressing down from above. Light pierced through the thick cloud base in narrow streaks, illuminating portions from within. Storm clouds are typically dense and dark, yet these appeared strangely bright, glowing in uneven patches that made the entire sky look alive. People who witnessed the scene stood still, watching the motion unfold in silence, unsure whether they were observing weather or something far more unusual. The footage lasted only seconds, but the visual spread rapidly online. Viewers replayed the moment repeatedly, noting how the ripple pattern stretched across a wide section of sky. The layered texture resembled water, disturbed by a distant vibration. No thunder followed, no rain arrived. The clouds shifted, held their shape, and then slowly softened. That absence of immediate danger made the scene more unsettling, because the sky behaved as though it was revealing movement rather than unleashing a storm. Many who watched described a lingering unease, as if the atmosphere itself had briefly exposed a hidden motion usually kept out of sight. Luke 21:25 speaks about signs appearing in the heavens. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, the sea and the waves roaring. The imagery of waves echoes the visual rhythm of the clouds. When the sky moves in patterns resembling water, some believers see more than a rare atmospheric effect. They see creation responding to divine authority, a reminder that the heavens themselves can shift at His command. The rippling motion seemed structured rather than random, encouraging viewers to interpret the scene as intentional rather than accidental. The brightness within the clouds remained difficult to explain. The symmetrical folding appeared too deliberate for ordinary turbulence. As the footage circulated, observers pointed out how the illumination remained consistent across different sections. The sky did not flash violently. It did not darken. It simply revealed a disturbance, then withdrew. That quiet appearance and disappearance created more tension than a dramatic storm would have. It felt less like a threat and more like a signal. Some dismissed the sight as an unusual but natural cloud formation. Yet for those who watched the sky shift above Kansas, the impression lingered. The clouds settled, The brightness faded, and the horizon returned to normal. Life continued, but the question remained. If the sky can ripple like this without warning, it suggests that even calm heavens may hold movements we rarely notice. 2. Night stood still under pulsing blue lights. Over the night sky, a strange blue glow suddenly spread across a large portion of the horizon, hanging above the city in complete silence. What began as a faint illumination quickly intensified, forming several distinct clusters that appeared perfectly still. The lights did not flash like aircraft or drift like satellites. They remained suspended, radiating a calm yet deeply unsettling presence. Witnesses gathered in the streets, staring upward as the clusters pulsed slowly, almost like a living heartbeat written across the heavens. The glow seeped through thin layers of cloud, lighting them from within and transforming the ordinary darkness into something otherworldly. Many described the silence beneath the lights as unusually heavy, as though the atmosphere itself had paused. The clusters remained visible for hours, maintaining their position without shifting. No sudden movement followed, no thunder echoed, no mechanical sound explained their presence. Their rhythm felt measured and deliberate, brightening slightly before dimming again in slow cycles. Phones were raised, videos recorded, and quiet conversations spread through the crowd. Some observers suggested hidden technology, while others sensed something beyond human design. The lights pulsed in a pattern that resembled a signal. It did not appear random. The spacing between each cluster remained consistent, and the intensity rose and fell together. The longer the glow persisted, the more curiosity turned into unease. The stillness of the display, combined with its duration, made the moment feel intentional rather than accidental. Acts 2:19 speaks about wonders appearing in the heavens. "And I will show wonders in heaven above, and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke." These words, recorded long before modern cities existed, describe unusual signs that draw attention upward. When lights form in ordered clusters and hold their place for hours, many believers interpret them as reminders of divine authority over creation. The calm persistence of the glow suggested purpose. Instead of dramatic movement, the display relied on stillness, allowing observers to reflect rather than react. The gentle pulsing appeared almost communicative, as though the sky itself were presenting a message in quiet form. Eventually, the brightness began to soften. One cluster dimmed slightly, then another followed. The process unfolded slowly, not all at once, but in sequence. The glow faded, layer by layer, until only faint traces remained. The city returned to darkness, yet the silence felt different than before. The lights had appeared, remained steady, and withdrawn without urgency. No explanation followed. No visible source remained. The memory of those motionless clusters lingered, leaving observers with a lasting impression that the night had briefly revealed something beyond ordinary understanding. 3. Terrifying flashes lit up the sky. A sudden thunder, like roar, echoed across the night. But there were no storm clouds in sight. The sound rolled over the area with a deep vibration that felt closer than distant thunder, immediately drawing people outside. Instead of rain or lightning, bright flashes erupted across the sky, cutting through the darkness in chaotic paths. The glowing bursts expanded, contracted, and darted unpredictably, illuminating rooftops and empty streets below. The motion did not resemble lightning, which typically strikes in brief, jagged lines. These lights lingered for moments before shifting position, as though guided by an unseen force. Witnesses lifted their phones with trembling hands, capturing a display that felt deliberate rather than random. The phenomenon lasted nearly 10 minutes, and each second intensified the tension. The sky flickered repeatedly, bathing buildings in sudden brightness before returning to darkness. The roar faded, then returned in uneven pulses, creating a rhythm that felt unsettling. No aircraft crossed the scene, no storm followed. The lights moved independently, some brightening while others dimmed, forming patterns that changed too quickly to predict. Those watching felt a deep unease, as if the heavens were presenting a disturbance meant to draw attention. A few observers spoke quietly, while others remained silent, transfixed by the restless motion above them. End quote. Matthew 24-29 speaks about moments when the heavens themselves display upheaval. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. This passage describes celestial disturbance that captures human attention. When flashes appear violently and without warning, many believers interpret them as reminders that the forces above remain under divine authority. The unpredictable motion of the lights suggested more than an ordinary atmospheric event. Their intensity and duration created the impression of purposeful movement, encouraging reflection rather than dismissal. Some attempted to explain the lights as rare electrical activity in the upper atmosphere. Yet the chaotic patterns left many unconvinced. The brightness did not follow familiar lightning behavior, and the sound did not match typical thunder. Instead, the display felt sustained and controlled. Joel 2:30-31 offers another striking image. "And I will show wonders in the heavens, blood and fire, and pillars of smoke." These words describe extraordinary signs appearing before significant change. The flashes over the night sky seem to echo that imagery, combining sound, light, and motion into a single moment of disturbance. Gradually, the intensity began to fade. The flashes grew less frequent, and the roar softened until only silence remained. Darkness returned, yet the unease lingered. The lights had appeared suddenly, moved unpredictably, and vanished without explanation. No storm arrived afterward. No visible source remained. The calm that followed felt heavier than before, leaving those who witnessed the event with the impression that the night had briefly revealed something beyond ordinary understanding. 4. The morning, multiple suns rose together. As the sun began to rise, multiple glowing orbs appeared along the horizon at the same time. What should have been a single point of light, slowly emerging, turned into a field of brightness, stretching across the morning sky. Some orbs burned with a warm orange glow, while others shone with a sharp white brilliance. Each one pulsed in a steady rhythm that felt deliberate and alive. The lights did not drift or flicker randomly. They held position above the horizon, forming a layered band of radiance that intensified with every pulse. The familiar progression of dawn disappeared, replaced by a sky that appeared structured and intentional. The repeated glow created tension, as though the lights were building towards something unseen. The orbs remained visible for nearly 2 hours, hovering without shifting from their formation. Their brightness intensified, then softened, repeating in slow cycles that resembled a measured signal. At times, one orb brightened more than the others, drawing attention before the entire group pulsed together again. Witnesses recorded the scene, their voices filled with confusion and disbelief, sensing that they were observing something beyond ordinary experience. No aircraft moved between the lights, and no clouds obscured them. The spacing remained precise, reinforcing the impression that the arrangement was controlled rather than accidental. The longer the formation held, the more unsettling it became. This was not a brief reflection or passing effect. It was sustained, ordered, and deliberate. Genesis 1:14 provides a perspective on lights in the heavens. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven, and let them be for signs." This verse emphasizes that celestial lights can serve as markers beyond their natural function. When multiple orbs appear where only one should rise, many believers interpret the scene as a reminder that the heavens remain under divine authority. The synchronized pulsing and consistent spacing suggested intention. Instead of chaotic motion, the The lights maintained calm repetition, directing attention upward and encouraging reflection on the possibility of meaningful signs. Gradually, the extra lights began to dim. One faded slightly, then another followed. The sequence unfolded slowly, not all at once, but in order. The brightness softened until only a single orb remained. The sky returned to its normal glow, yet the memory of multiple suns lingering above the horizon remained difficult to dismiss. Revelation 6:12 describes dramatic celestial change. The sun became black as sackcloth, and the moon became blood. Scenes where the sky presents unfamiliar light remind observers how quickly the ordinary order can shift. The orbs disappeared, but the deliberate way they faded left a lasting impression. The morning returned to calm, yet the unusual display suggested that even sunrise can hold unexpected signs beyond familiar patterns. 5. Pyramids appeared in the clouds. Above the desert horizon, pyramid-shaped structures appeared in the clouds, mirroring the monuments below. Witnesses looked upward as geometric forms emerged, sharp and defined, suspended high in the sky. These luminous shapes appeared inverted, their pointed tips extending downward, as though the heavens were reflecting the earth in reverse. The formations did not drift randomly. They assembled gradually, one shape appearing, then another, creating a layered pattern above the landscape. The movement was deliberate and smooth, each structure gliding slowly while maintaining crisp edges. The familiar skyline transformed into something unfamiliar, as if the sky itself were constructing symbols directly overhead. The formations remained visible for hours, holding their shape instead of dissolving like ordinary clouds. Multiple observers recorded the same sight, noting how the pyramids maintained symmetry even as they shifted slightly in position. At times, one structure sharpened, while another faded, only to reappear moments later. The arrangement felt organized rather than chaotic. The desert wind continued quietly beneath them, yet the sky appeared active and controlled. The longer the shapes remained, the more unsettling the scene became. The pyramids on the ground stood motionless, but their counterparts above moved slowly, creating the impression of a silent interaction between earth and sky. Gradually, the structures began to thin, though not all at once. One faded, then another, leaving gaps that heightened the tension. Job 38-33 offers a reminder of order in the heavens. Knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? Canst thou set the dominion thereof in the earth? This verse speaks about the structure established above. When geometric forms appear with precision in the clouds, many believers interpret them as more than coincidence. The alignment between shapes above and monuments below suggested intentional design. Instead of random cloud movement, the formation seemed measured, encouraging reflection on the possibility that creation itself can display organized signs. As the shapes began to dissolve, the sky briefly cleared. A faint outline appeared again, then vanished completely. The horizon returned to normal, yet the impression remained strong. Psalm 147:4 adds another perspective. He telleth the number of the stars. He calleth them all by their names. This passage emphasizes precision in the heavens. Structured forms appearing where randomness is expected can evoke a sense of deliberate craftsmanship. The sky seemed to present patterns, hold them in place, and then withdraw them carefully. The final pyramid faded, leaving open sky above the desert. For a moment, nothing moved. The light shifted slightly near the horizon, and calm returned. The scene ended quietly, yet the memory lingered, suggesting that even familiar landscapes can be mirrored in unexpected ways above. 6. Portal-like ring hung over Oklahoma. A glowing ring suddenly appeared above a warehouse in Oklahoma, perfectly circular and motionless, hovering unusually low against the night sky. The calm streets quickly filled with urgency as people noticed the pale circle suspended in darkness. Its rim remained sharply defined, while faint blue patterns rippled slowly at the center. The object did not drift like a cloud or flash like aircraft lights. It held perfectly still, close enough to feel immediate, yet distant enough to remain unreachable. Residents stepped outside, pointing upward as the quiet neighborhood shifted into tension. The circle resembled a doorway cut into the sky, and the stillness around it made the scene feel deliberate. No wind disturbed it, no sound followed, and the symmetry remained exact, intensifying the sense that something had opened above the town. The glowing ring held its position for nearly 20 minutes, long enough for more witnesses to gather. Some recorded the moment, while others moved closer, trying to see whether the center would change. The faint blue patterns inside began to pulse, slowly at first, then slightly faster, as though building toward a moment. The surrounding darkness seemed deeper by contrast, and the light from the ring reflected faintly off rooftops below. No aircraft crossed the sky, and no mechanical noise explained the presence. The longer it remained, the more the tension escalated. A few observers stepped back, uneasy, while others leaned forward, expecting movement. Then, the center briefly darkened, as if the ring had depth rather than flat light, creating the impression of an opening instead of a reflection. Revelation 4:1 describes imagery that resonates with such a sight. After this, I looked, and behold, a door was opened in heaven. This passage speaks about a threshold revealed above. When a circular opening appears, suspended in the night sky, many believers interpret it as a reminder that the heavens can display unexpected signs. The stillness of the ring, combined with its measured pulsing, suggested intention rather than coincidence. The calm, controlled motion directed attention upward, encouraging reflection rather than panic. The circle remained stable, neither expanding nor drifting, reinforcing the impression of something deliberate. Just as the pulsing intensified, the ring contracted slightly, becoming brighter along its edge. For a brief second, the center appeared darker than the surrounding sky, as though something might emerge. Then, without warning, the circle collapsed inward and vanished. The sky returned instantly to empty darkness, leaving no fading glow. Ezekiel 1:16 offers another image. Their appearance was as if it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. Circular forms in heavenly visions often convey mystery and motion. The ring over Oklahoma disappeared abruptly, and the sudden contraction made the ending more unsettling than its appearance. The darkness settled again, yet the silence felt heavier than before. No sound followed, no light returned, and the town slowly resumed its calm. The memory remained fixed in those who watched, leaving the impression that the night had briefly revealed something beyond ordinary understanding. 7. Ring of fire rotated above the Alps. A massive ring of fire appeared above the mountains at dawn, suspended against the pale morning sky. The circle burned with a vivid orange glow, rotating slowly while the surrounding clouds thinned and pulled away. The ring remained perfectly defined, its edges bright and steady, contrasting sharply with the soft light spreading across the horizon. Snow-covered peaks below reflected a faint amber tint, making the entire landscape appear altered. The motion of the ring was controlled, neither expanding nor drifting, but turning with measured precision. The stillness of the mountains intensified the tension, as though the sky had placed a burning symbol directly overhead. The fiery circle remained visible far longer than expected. Minutes passed, then nearly an hour, and the rotation continued without interruption. Observers recorded the phenomenon, noting how the center appeared darker than the surrounding glow. At times, the inner space seemed to deepen, giving the impression of depth rather than flat light. The brightness intensified briefly, then stabilized again, as if building toward a moment. No aircraft crossed the sky, and no sound accompanied the display. The longer it remained, the more the scene shifted from curiosity to unease. Some pointed out how thin clouds near the ring began forming a faint spiral, subtly aligning with its rotation. The peaks below remained motionless, yet the sky above appeared active, controlled, and deliberate. Malachi 4:1 offers imagery that resonates with fire in the heavens. For, behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven. This passage speaks about intensity associated with warning. A ring of fire suspended above a peaceful landscape naturally draws attention to the symbolism of burning light appearing without destruction. The controlled rotation and steady brightness suggested intention. Instead of spreading outward, the circle held its form, encouraging reflection on the possibility that such signs may precede significant moments. The calm environment made the contrast even stronger, emphasizing the unusual nature of the display. As the rotation slowed, the glow began to thin, and faint trails formed along the edges. For a brief moment, the circle brightened again, sharper than before. Then, the center darkened noticeably. Observers expected the ring to dissolve gradually, yet the opposite occurred. The fiery outline fractured into segments, each piece fading unevenly before vanishing entirely. Isaiah 66:15 reinforces imagery of fire linked to sudden action. For, behold, the Lord will come with fire. The disappearance of the ring was abrupt, leaving no lingering glow. The sky returned to pale morning light within seconds. The mountains stood unchanged, but the silence felt heavier than before. The fire had appeared, rotated, and vanished without explanation. No smoke remained, no cloud pattern held its shape, and the horizon returned to normal. Yet, the abrupt fragmentation left a stronger impression than a slow fade. The calm returned, but the memory of the rotating ring lingered, suggesting that even peaceful landscapes can briefly reveal extraordinary signs overhead. 8. Midnight turned the entire city red. At midnight, the sky above suddenly turned deep red, spreading across the horizon with an unnatural glow. Within minutes, darkness transformed into a vast crimson canopy that covered the entire city. Buildings reflected the color, their outlines darkened against the glowing sky. Streets that had been active moments earlier slowed almost instantly, and people stepped outside, unsure whether they were seeing a distant fire or something far larger. The clouds appeared saturated with deep color, uniform and unmoving, as though the sky had been painted in a single stroke. The glow did not flicker like lightning or shift like sunset. It held steady, pressing a heavy tone over the skyline. The sudden transformation intensified the shock because the change happened rapidly, turning ordinary night into a deep red ceiling, stretching in every direction. The phenomenon lasted far longer than expected. Minutes passed, then an hour, and the crimson light remained unchanged. Windows across the skyline reflected the same color, and the streets below appeared dimmer under the unnatural illumination. Some residents retreated indoors, while others filmed from rooftops, capturing how the clouds remained still despite shifting wind at ground level. The red tone seemed to thicken, at times appearing darker near the horizon, then spreading upward again. No lightning appeared, and no visible source explained the intensity. The stillness of the glow created more tension than movement would have, because nothing changed. The city felt paused beneath the color, as though waiting for the sky to react. Joel 2:31 presents imagery that echoes scenes like this. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. This verse describes transformation in the heavens that captures attention. A sky turning deep red at midnight naturally draws comparisons to such imagery. The uniform color and sustained duration suggested something deliberate, encouraging observers to consider that unusual signs may appear without warning. The lack of movement reinforced the impression of a controlled display rather than a passing reflection. As the hours continued, the glow subtly intensified, then stabilized again. The clouds did not break apart, and the red canopy remained continuous across the skyline. Revelation 6:12 offers another description. The sun became black as sackcloth, and the moon became blood. This passage highlights dramatic celestial change. The crimson sky resembled a city submerged beneath a single color, holding its intensity longer than expected. The stillness overhead made the atmosphere feel heavier, as if the night itself had shifted. Then, without transition, the red began to thin. Not gradually from one side, but across the entire sky at once. Within minutes, the glow weakened and darkness returned. The sudden disappearance felt sharper than the appearance. The city lights regained dominance, and the clouds faded into normal gray. Yet the abrupt shift left a stronger impression than a slow fade would have. The night settled back into silence, but the memory of the crimson canopy lingered. 9. Violent spiral formed in Tennessee. A dark spiral formed rapidly in the sky, pulling surrounding clouds inward with sudden force. Within moments, scattered clouds shifted into a rotating mass that tightened quickly. The movement intensified, forming a defined vortex with a darkening center. The rotation accelerated, creating stark contrast against the lighter sky around it. The formation expanded vertically, stretching higher while maintaining a narrow core. Edges of the spiral brightened faintly, as though light was trapped within the swirling layers. The sudden shift transformed an ordinary afternoon into a tense scene, and the air below felt heavier than before. The phenomenon intensified rapidly. The spiral narrowed, then widened again, repeating in cycles that suggested controlled motion rather than random turbulence. Some recordings captured a deep roaring sound, rising and falling with the rotation. Leaves on nearby trees trembled, yet no strong winds reached the ground. The contrast between calm streets and violent motion above increased the unease. A faint haze formed around the vortex, briefly reflecting light along its outer edges. Observers stepped back as the rotation appeared to accelerate further, the center growing darker as if depth were forming within the clouds. The entire structure held together longer than expected, then shifted slightly without losing shape. Jeremiah 23:19 presents imagery that echoes powerful whirlwinds. Behold, a whirlwind of the Lord is gone forth in fury. This verse describes a whirlwind associated with force and purpose. When a spiral forms suddenly and intensifies without warning, many interpret it as a reminder that the heavens can display controlled power. The tightening rotation and brief glow suggested more than a passing cloud pattern, directing attention upward. The motion appeared deliberate, holding structure despite the surrounding calm. The vortex reached its peak abruptly. The outer edges thinned, while the center darkened further, and the rotation became tighter for several seconds. Then, the structure destabilized. The spiral stretched upward, fragmented into uneven layers, and began to dissolve. Ezekiel 1-4 offers another description: a whirlwind, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself. The formation resembled a swirling mass with shifting brightness, reinforcing the intensity of the moment. The vortex collapsed quickly, leaving scattered clouds where the spiral had been. Silence followed. The sky cleared faster than expected, and the air returned to normal. No storm arrived, and the ground showed no sign of disturbance. Yet, the abrupt rise and collapse left a stronger impression than a gradual change would have. The calm that followed felt temporary, as though the sky had briefly demonstrated motion and then withdrawn. The memory of the tightening spiral lingered, suggesting that even calm skies can suddenly reveal intense and structured movement. If a vortex can form, tighten, and vanish within minutes, the next sign might not spin violently at all. 10. Sky appeared to crack open above Ohio. the sky suddenly appeared to split. Branching lines of fiery light spread outward like cracks across a bright blue horizon. The patterns formed quickly, cutting sharp angles and expanding in multiple directions. Witnesses lifted their cameras while a low roar echoed, deep and unfamiliar, adding urgency to the moment. The streaks did not flicker like lightning or fade like contrails. They held their shape, glowing steadily, as though the sky itself had developed visible fractures. The lines stretched wider, intersecting at jagged points, and the blue background made the brightness more intense. Within seconds, the formation resembled a web of fractures suspended overhead. The event unfolded rapidly. The branching lines continued to extend, some brightening while others thinned. Observers noted that the glow remained consistent, not pulsing, but spreading. The low roar grew slightly louder, then softened, repeating in uneven waves. Multiple recordings captured the same structure from different viewpoints, showing how the fractures covered a broad portion of the sky. The edges of the lines appeared sharper at their tips, as though the cracks were still forming. No clouds surrounded the pattern, leaving the light suspended against open blue. The longer it remained, the more the scene felt structured rather than random. The lines intersected at new angles, briefly creating triangular gaps before stabilizing again. Isaiah 64:1 presents language that resonates with imagery of a divided sky. "Oh, that thou wouldest rend the heavens." This verse describes the heavens being torn open. When branching lines appear across a clear horizon, many interpret the scene as a reminder that the sky can display sudden transformation. The structured expansion and sustained brightness suggested something deliberate, directing attention upward. The formation appeared controlled, holding together despite the absence of clouds or storms. As the glow reached its widest spread, the lines began to thin at the edges. The roar faded, leaving a quiet tension. Then, instead of disappearing gradually, several fractures dimmed simultaneously. The remaining lines held for a few seconds longer before weakening. Ezekiel 1:1 offers another striking image. The heavens were opened. The formation resembled a brief opening that appeared and then closed. The light diminished unevenly, some segments fading faster than others, until only faint traces remained. Within moments, the sky returned to clear blue. No smoke, no cloud, and no visible source remained. The abrupt return to normal made the event feel shorter than it had been. The calm horizon contrasted sharply with the intense pattern that had filled it seconds earlier. Observers lowered their cameras, but the image of branching light lingered. Across these 10 moments, a pattern emerged. Fractured sky, crimson midnight, swirling fire, silent rings, glowing orbs, and towering shapes appeared in different places, yet carried the same weight. Each sign seemed isolated, but together they formed a sequence that echoes the language of Scripture. The heavens spoke through light, motion, and stillness, reminding us how quickly the ordinary can change. These moments, scattered across time and distance, created a sense that something larger connects them, inviting reflection rather than quick dismissal. The Bible often describes signs that awaken hearts and call people to readiness. These scenes do not demand fear, but attention. They invite us to stay watchful, to pray, and to keep faith steady even when the sky itself feels uncertain. When unusual things unfold above us, they can inspire prayer, repentance, and renewed trust in the Lord who holds all things in His hands. Such reminders encourage believers to focus not on panic, but on preparedness, strengthening faith and compassion toward others during uncertain times. Take a moment to reflect on what these signs mean for you personally. Consider leaving a short prayer in the comments, or share your thoughts about what message you believe these moments carry. Your words may encourage someone else who is searching for hope and clarity. This space can become a quiet place of faith where viewers support one another through prayer and reflection. If this message touched your heart, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing so you do not miss future reflections. Thank you for watching and for taking time to think deeply about these signs. May peace cover you and your family. May faith strengthen your path, and may God's presence guide your days. Amen.
The strange shape simply floated there for a moment, then faded. Drivers quickly realize it isn't a storm. It's a massive flock of birds circling and swooping in every direction.
What is that? What is...
The sky has not looked the same lately. Across different places, people are pointing upward as unfamiliar shapes begin to form above them. A glowing pillar rises behind a mountain, a misty ring hovers over a quiet road, and a fiery trail falls slowly toward the ocean. Birds suddenly swarm and darken entire highways. Strange lights glide silently through the air, and a burst of color expands into a perfect circle above the clouds. In other moments, the atmosphere ripples, heavy formations sink low, and something appears to descend from the heavens, like a signal no one was expecting. These scenes were captured by ordinary witnesses who simply looked up at the right moment. When placed side by side, the similarities become difficult to ignore. The sky shifts, nature responds, and a quiet sense of urgency begins to grow. The patterns feel connected, as though separate events are forming one larger message. Many who watch these moments describe the same reaction: a pause, a question, and a feeling that something meaningful may be unfolding. Have you noticed how often the heavens seem different lately? Could these moments be pointing towards something greater than coincidence? We are about to explore 10 events, each one building on the last, and together they may reveal a picture that becomes clearer with every step. It began quietly, after the clouds should have cleared. 1. A sky that looked heavy with a message. Right after a powerful thunderstorm swept across Cordoba in Argentina, people expected the sky to clear and calm. Instead, something unusual began to form overhead. The clouds did not drift apart. They sank lower, swelling into thick, rounded pockets that hung heavily above the land. The entire ceiling of the sky looked dense and weighted, as though something unseen was pressing downward. Drivers slowed, neighbors stepped outside, and phones lifted toward the horizon. The formations appeared clustered and layered, not scattered randomly. The sky felt closer than normal, and the silence after the storm carried an unsettling weight that drew attention upward. The cloud structure stretched across a wide portion of the horizon, each pocket casting deep shadows that added to the dramatic appearance. The air felt still, almost paused, while the shapes hovered without breaking apart. People described the moment as both beautiful and uneasy, a calm that felt different from ordinary weather. The clouds did not rush past. They lingered, low and heavy, as though holding something back. Many who stood beneath them sensed that the scene carried meaning beyond a typical storm's aftermath. The atmosphere felt charged, and the sky seemed to remain suspended in that unusual state. Joel 2:30 records a striking passage, "And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke." These words describe signs appearing above humanity, sometimes forming quietly rather than dramatically. When clouds gather in unfamiliar patterns and the sky feels tense, believers often see reminders that creation itself can draw attention. The heavens do not need thunder to speak. Their appearance alone can stir reflection. The heavy formations over Cordoba seem to mirror that idea, a visual moment encouraging observers to look upward and consider deeper meaning. Meteorologists later identified the pattern as mammatus clouds, a rare formation that can follow strong storms. Yet the technical description did little to change the emotional impact. The the shapes appeared too deliberate, too structured to feel ordinary. The stillness beneath them amplified the impression. The clouds looked like a curtain lowering slowly, creating anticipation. People remained watching, waiting, sensing that the moment held significance. The sky did not clear immediately. It lingered, allowing the unusual texture to remain visible long enough to leave a lasting memory. Romans 1:20 offers another perspective. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead. Many believers read this verse and see nature as a testimony. When the sky changes in unexpected ways, it becomes difficult to dismiss the possibility that creation reflects something greater. The heavy clouds over Cordoba did not speak with sound, yet they left a powerful impression. The storm passed, the formations faded, but the feeling remained, especially when another sign soon appeared, stronger and impossible to ignore. 2. A sky that burned. On a quiet highway, a driver raised a camera and pointed it toward a horizon that no longer looked ordinary. The sky was covered from edge to edge with thousands of small clouds, each one glowing in deep orange, burning red, and molten gold. The colors did not stay near the setting sun. They spread across the entire atmosphere, forming what looked like a ceiling of fire above the road. Windshields reflected the glow, fields turned amber, and silhouettes darkened against the brightness. Cars slowed almost instinctively. Conversations faded. People looked upward, drawn by a scene that felt too intense to ignore and too calm to explain. Acts 2:19-20 describes a moment that resonates with such imagery. I will show wonders in heaven above and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and notable day of the Lord come. Those words speak of fire appearing in the heavens as a sign meant to capture attention. When the sky glows in tones resembling flame, many believers see more than a beautiful sunset. The burning colors seem to echo the idea that creation itself can display reminders, not through noise, but through overwhelming presence. The glow intensified as the light stretched farther across the clouds, turning the entire sky into a vast furnace suspended above the earth. The brightness did not flicker or fade quickly. It lingered, bathing the landscape in a steady, molten hue. The stillness beneath the fiery ceiling felt unusual, almost deliberate. There was no violent storm, no sudden wind, only a quiet road beneath a sky that appeared alive with color. The scene felt balanced between beauty and warning, calm yet powerful, as though something important was being written across the heavens in light. Revelation 6:12 adds another striking description. And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. Passages like this often come to mind when the sky shifts into deep crimson shades. The resemblance does not require destruction to feel meaningful. The transformation alone can stir reflection. The burning clouds above the highway appeared steady and controlled, yet their scale made them impossible to overlook. The heavens seemed to pause, allowing the fiery colors to remain long enough to leave a lasting impression. Some later explained the display as sunlight scattering through layered clouds. Yet the technical reasoning did not remove the emotional impact. The intensity, the size, and the silence combined into something memorable. The sky did not simply change color. It looked illuminated with purpose. The fire slowly softened into darkness, but the feeling remained with those who witnessed it. The moment ended quietly, though the sense that the signs were growing more vivid continued, especially as another unusual formation soon began to appear within the clouds themselves. 3. A face that watched from the storm. During a violent thunderstorm, dense clouds swallowed the sky above a city. turning daylight into a dim gray hush. Lightning flickered behind thick layers, and the air felt tense, heavy, and expectant. Then, a pale section began to form within the darkness, slowly separating from the surrounding clouds. A broad forehead appeared first, followed by deep, hollow eye sockets, a defined nose, and a chin shaped with startling precision. The outline resembled a towering face suspended above the skyline, staring downward with a cold and severe expression. Cameras lifted, voices quieted, and the storm seemed to pause as the image held its place above rooftops. The contrast between dark clouds and the lighter formation made the features stand out with unsettling clarity. The eyes appeared sunken, the mouth shadowed, and the entire shape looked intentional rather than accidental. Winds moved the surrounding clouds, yet the face remained visible long enough to be captured clearly. Streets below grew quieter as people watched, sensing something unusual in the stillness. The presence felt imposing, as though the sky itself was observing the city. The longer it lingered, the stronger the impression became, turning a passing storm into a moment that felt deeply symbolic. Ephesians 6:12 offers a sobering reminder. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. These words describe unseen forces beyond ordinary perception. When a shape resembling a watchful presence appears in the heavens, many believers recall that the spiritual realm is often hinted at through subtle signs. The face within the clouds seemed to echo that idea, a silent image urging reflection on realities that extend beyond what can be touched or measured. The storm clouds shifted slowly, yet the features remained defined, hovering above buildings and casting a heavy mood across the scene. The symmetry of the face, combined with the dramatic lighting, made it difficult to ignore. The city beneath appeared small under the looming formation, and the stillness intensified the emotional impact. The image did not flicker away quickly. It lingered, allowing viewers to absorb the moment fully. The atmosphere felt charged, and the sense of being watched created a tension that remained even as the thunder softened in the distance. 1 Peter 5-8 reinforces the call to awareness. Be sober. Be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. This verse encourages watchfulness in uncertain times. The silent face in the storm did not move or speak, yet its gaze felt like a reminder to remain alert. Gradually, the clouds shifted, the features dissolved, and the sky returned to ordinary gray. The storm moved on, but the memory lingered, especially when another unusual shape soon began to form high above the horizon. 4. Shape descending from the heavens. On a calm afternoon, when the sky appeared clear and undisturbed, a photographer noticed something unusual forming above the horizon. A massive structure stretched downward from a patch of glowing cloud, narrowing into a long teardrop shape that seemed to pierce the open air. Its color burned in deep red and orange, brighter than the surrounding sky, giving the center a dense and almost solid appearance. Everything else remained still. No strong wind, no storm, no movement, except this single formation lowering slowly. The contrast made it feel deliberate, as though something was being placed carefully between heaven and earth. The lower tip appeared to extend closer toward the ground, and observers described a growing sense of unease as they watched. The sky no longer felt empty. It felt occupied, active, and strangely focused. The formation did not scatter like ordinary clouds. It held its shape, hovering in silence while the glow intensified along its edges. People raised their cameras, whispering and pointing, unsure how to interpret what they were seeing. The stillness around the descending structure amplified the tension. It looked less like drifting vapor and more like a signal lowering from above, demanding attention without sound. Genesis 28-12 records a vision that reflects this imagery. and he dreamed, and beheld a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven, and beheld the angels of God ascending and descending on it. This passage describes a connection stretching between heaven and the world below. When something appears to descend from the sky in a defined and luminous form, many believers recall this idea. The glowing structure resembled a pathway or bridge, a reminder that the boundary between realms is not always distant. The calm sky surrounding it made the moment feel purposeful, as though the heavens were drawing near. The shape remained steady, its core bright, and its outline sharp against the pale background. The environment stayed quiet, heightening the emotional impact. Some viewers described a sense of anticipation, while others felt a subtle uneasiness they could not explain. The formation looked too structured to dismiss easily. It stood alone, dominating the sky, while the air below remained still. The longer it lingered, the more it felt like the beginning of something rather than a random occurrence. The silence beneath it seemed heavier, pressing attention upward. Revelation 10:1 presents another powerful image. And I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was upon his head, and his face was as if it were the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire. The description of something descending in a radiant cloud echoes the symbolism of a sign from above. The glowing formation did not move quickly. It hovered, then slowly softened at the edges, dissolving back into the sky. The calm returned, yet the impression remained strong. The sense that the heavens were no longer quiet continued, especially as the next sign would arrive with sudden movement that no one expected. 5. Sky turned dark with wings. Drivers moving along a busy motorway near Mesquite in Texas suddenly noticed the light above them, fading. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Traffic flowed, the horizon remained clear, and the afternoon looked ordinary. Then, birds began pouring into the sky from every direction. Dozens became hundreds, and hundreds multiplied into thousands. Within moments, the blue above vanished beneath swirling wings. The air filled with sharp cries, and shadows moved rapidly across the road. Cars slowed instinctively. Some stopped completely. People leaned out of windows, staring upward as the sky transformed into a restless, shifting mass. The flock thickened until it resembled a living canopy stretching over the motorway. Birds circled, dipped, and folded into one another, creating waves that rolled from one side of the sky to the other. Power lines emptied as more birds burst upward, joining the motion. The sound intensified, echoing across the highway and surrounding fields. Drivers remained still, unsure whether to continue or simply watch. The movement looked coordinated, almost purposeful, as though the entire flock was responding to an unseen call. The sunlight dimmed further, not from clouds but from countless wings overlapping in constant motion. Luke 21:25 records a warning that resonates with scenes like this. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. The verse speaks of confusion and signs affecting both sky and earth. When thousands of birds suddenly darken the heavens, many believers see more than unusual behavior. The synchronized movement, the sudden gathering, and the heavy sound all create a sense that nature itself is responding. The sky above Texas did not simply host passing birds. It appeared alive with urgency. The swirling mass shifted repeatedly, forming dense clusters that moved like ripples across the air. Each surge brought deeper shadows and louder cries. Drivers watched as the flock expanded, then tightened again, creating patterns that seemed almost deliberate. The stillness on the road contrasted with the chaos above, heightening the tension. The scene felt overwhelming, as though the natural world had entered a brief moment of alarm. Even as some birds peeled away, more joined, prolonging the darkened sky. The impression remained strong, leaving witnesses with a sense that something significant had just unfolded. Jeremiah 4:25 offers a striking image. I beheld, and lo, there was no man. And all the birds of the heavens fled. This passage reflects how the behavior of birds can signal profound change. When flocks gather in unusual ways, believers often interpret it as creation reacting before humanity understands. Gradually, the birds dispersed, sunlight returned, and traffic resumed. Yet the memory of the sky turning dark with wings lingered. The sudden gathering left a quiet unease, especially as the next sign would appear with fire descending toward the water. 6. Flame fell into the sea. On a quiet shoreline, a man resting near the water suddenly noticed a bright glow cutting across the sky. The light did not flash and disappear. It moved slowly, leaving behind a fiery trail that stretched downward toward the ocean. The color burned in intense orange and white, illuminating the air around it. Waves rolled gently, yet the atmosphere felt charged with urgency. The glowing object continued its steady descent, approaching the horizon without wavering. Then it slipped beneath the surface of the sea. The brightness vanished instantly, leaving only darkness, the sound of water, and a stunned silence. The moment felt heavier than a brief streak of light. The path downward appeared controlled, almost intentional. The man remained still, staring at the exact point where the glow disappeared. The ocean reflected faint traces of light before returning to calm. Those who later watched the recording described the same mixture of awe and unease. The sea, vast and quiet, seemed to receive something unexpected. The event lasted only seconds, yet the impression lingered. The stillness afterward made the descent feel significant, as though the water itself had absorbed a silent message. Revelation 8:8-9 presents a striking image, and the second angel sounded, "Ho, ho, ho, ho." And as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood, and the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. These words describe fire descending into the waters. When believers see a burning light fall toward the ocean, many recall this passage. The resemblance lies in the imagery, not in destruction, but in the act of flame entering the sea. The visual alone becomes powerful enough to stir reflection. The descent remained steady, not erratic. The trail narrowed as it approached the surface, then vanished completely. The waves did not react dramatically, yet the quiet felt deeper than before. The shoreline remained still, and the sky returned to darkness. The contrast between calm water and fiery descent heightened the tension. The event seemed deliberate, almost like a signal delivered from above. Witnesses described a lingering sense that something meaningful had occurred, even though no sound followed the impact. Psalm 107:29-30 offers another perspective. He maketh the storm calm, so that the waves thereof are still. Then they are glad, because they are quiet. So he bringeth them to their desired haven. This verse reminds believers that the sea remains under divine authority. When a burning light enters calm waters, many see a reminder that both heaven and ocean respond to a greater will. The glow faded completely, the horizon darkened, and the shoreline returned to silence. Yet the sense of increasing intensity remained, especially when another light soon appeared, moving across the sky in a way that seemed even more unusual. 7. Light moved with purpose. During a family gathering in Arizona, laughter and conversation filled a quiet park until a sudden glow appeared above the trees. The light formed into a bright sphere, hovering steadily in the sky. It did not remain still. It shifted colors from white to blue, then to a warm orange, gliding slowly back and forth. Voices in the recording reflected shock and awe. People pointed upward, unable to look away from the moving glow. The sphere seemed alive, drifting without sound, pausing, then changing direction. The calm evening transformed into a moment charged with wonder and unease. The glowing object did not fade quickly. It lingered, sliding across the sky with deliberate motion. The color changes gave the impression of intelligence guiding its path. Families nearby grew quiet, and phones captured the event from different angles. The light hovered low enough to feel close, yet distant enough to remain unreachable. The park lights below appeared dim compared to the brightness above. The movement felt intentional, as though the sky itself had become active, presenting a sign designed to draw attention and stir reflection. Exodus 13:21 speaks of divine guidance through light. And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of a cloud to lead them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, to go by day and night. This passage describes a radiant presence moving before people, guiding and warning. When a glowing sphere shifts across the sky, many believers recall that light has long symbolized divine intervention. The changing colors and steady motion suggest more than random energy. The heavens appear to communicate through illumination, reminding humanity that guidance and warning can arrive in unexpected forms. Some observers proposed unusual electrical activity. Yet the smooth motion, the repeated color transitions, and the duration left deeper impressions. The light did not flicker randomly. It moved with calm authority, almost like a messenger surveying the ground below. The atmosphere around the park felt hushed, and those present sensed that the moment carried significance beyond curiosity. The glow remained vivid in memory, reinforcing the idea that the sky continues to reveal signals that cannot be ignored. Matthew 24:27 offers a powerful warning. For as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. This verse connects sudden light in the sky with divine timing. The glowing sphere did not stretch across the horizon, yet its brilliance and movement evoked that imagery. The light eventually faded, and the park returned to darkness. Still, the feeling that the heavens were speaking grew stronger, especially when another burst of light soon rose upward and formed a shape unlike anything seen before. 8. Ring formed in the heavens. From a quiet hillside, a camera captured a sudden burst of blue light shooting straight upward into the sky. The streak moved rapidly, cutting through the darkness with sharp brilliance. Then, at its peak, the light expanded and transformed into a glowing orange ring suspended above the clouds. The circle hovered silently, bright and perfectly shaped, radiating a soft but unmistakable glow. The surrounding sky remained still, making the ring appear even more pronounced. Those who later watched the clip described a deep sense of wonder, as though a doorway had briefly opened above the earth. The transition from a narrow streak to a complete circle unfolded smoothly, almost like a deliberate act. The ring did not distort or scatter. It held its shape, floating high above the horizon. The symmetry gave the impression of order and intention. The color shifted gently within the circle, and the glow illuminated nearby clouds. Observers felt drawn to the image, sensing that the formation carried meaning beyond a simple light. The sky seemed to pause, allowing the circle to remain visible long enough to be recognized as something extraordinary. Ezekiel 1:16 describes a vision filled with circular imagery. The appearance of the wheels and their work was like unto the color of a beryl, and they four had one likeness. And their appearance and their work was as if it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. This passage speaks of radiant circular forms connected with divine presence. When a glowing ring appears in the sky, many believers recall these words. The circle suggests completeness, authority, and movement guided by higher power. The hovering ring above the clouds echoed that symbolism, prompting reflection on the possibility of heavenly signs revealed in visible form. Some observers mentioned unusual atmospheric lights. Yet the precision of the circle and the calmness surrounding it left many unconvinced. The formation appeared structured, not chaotic. The sky around it remained undisturbed, emphasizing the singular presence of the glowing ring. The moment felt intentional, as though the heavens briefly revealed a symbol meant to draw attention. The ring gradually faded, but its image lingered in memory, reinforcing the sense that the signs were growing clearer and more direct. Isaiah 40:22 offers another perspective. It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in. This verse highlights the sovereignty of God over the heavens and their shapes. When a circle forms above the clouds, believers often see a reminder of divine order. The glowing ring vanished slowly, leaving the sky dark once more. Yet, the idea of a gateway remained in thought, especially when another circular formation soon appeared closer to the ground. 9. Circle hovered in silence. A quiet road in California became the setting for a moment that felt deeply spiritual. A couple drove beneath a calm sky when a dark, misty ring formed ahead of them, suspended gently in the air. The shape hovered above their path with slow, deliberate stillness, neither drifting away nor breaking apart. Its edges looked soft, almost alive, as though the circle was breathing within the sky. The road remained silent, trees unmoving, and the atmosphere seemed to grow heavier. The ring stayed perfectly shaped, floating in front of them long enough to transform an ordinary drive into a moment filled with awe and quiet reflection. The circular mist maintained its form without dispersing, and no visible source appeared nearby. The absence of disturbance made the image even more striking. The ring looked placed rather than formed, suspended with intention. The couple slowed their vehicle, watching as the circle hovered calmly in the open air. The stillness amplified the impression that this was more than a passing cloud. The shape neither expanded nor collapsed. It lingered with a quiet presence, inviting attention rather than fear. When it finally began to fade, the disappearance felt gentle, leaving behind a sense that something meaningful had just unfolded. Job 38:33 speaks about divine authority over the heavens. Knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? Canst thou set the dominion thereof in the earth? This verse reminds believers that the sky operates under God's command. A ring forming in silence can be seen as part of that dominion. The circle above the road appeared ordered and calm, suggesting purpose rather than randomness. Many who reflect on such imagery view it as a reminder that the heavens can communicate through form and stillness. The quiet presence of the ring encouraged observers to pause and look upward with renewed awareness. The misty circle remained suspended for several moments, its edges slowly softening while the center stayed defined. The calm landscape around it heightened the emotional impact. No wind pushed it aside, and no sound interrupted the scene. The couple continued watching, sensing that the sky had briefly revealed something deliberate. The gentle fading did not weaken the experience. Instead, it strengthened the feeling that the moment carried symbolic meaning, leaving a lasting impression long after the ring dissolved. Revelation 4:3 deepens this perspective. And he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone, and there was a rainbow round about the throne, in sight like unto an emerald. The imagery of a circle surrounding divine presence resonates with the hovering ring. The shape above the road resembled a quiet boundary, calm and purposeful. When it disappeared completely, the sky returned to normal, yet the sense of reverence remained. The memory lingered, especially as the final sign would soon appear, brighter and more unmistakable than the rest. 10. Final light rose behind mountain. On a remote mountain in British Columbia, a climber lifted his camera toward the night sky and witnessed a vision that felt solemn and overwhelming. From behind the dark ridge, a towering pillar of light rose upward, bright and steady, cutting through the darkness with quiet authority. The beam did not flicker or scatter. It stretched higher and higher until its upper edge curved outward, forming a luminous ring suspended above the earth. The shape resembled a gateway carved into the heavens. The mountain stood silent beneath it, while the glowing structure seemed to declare that the sky itself had opened. The pillar remained firm, connecting ground and sky in one continuous line. Its brilliance illuminated the surrounding clouds, turning the entire horizon into a radiant scene. The climber later shared that he had seen a similar formation before, and each appearance seemed closer than the last. This detail intensified the sense of purpose. The phenomenon did not feel distant or accidental. The vertical beam suggested descent, while the circular crown suggested completion. Together, they formed an image of authority and finality, as though a message had reached its climax. Those who watched the footage sensed a solemn weight, recognizing a moment that carried spiritual significance.
Is appealing for more than $41 million to eliminate a severe plague of locusts in Madagascar. Half of the money is needed by June to try to save the country's crop production. Around half of Madagascar is currently infested, with each swarm made up of billions of insects.
Are we witnessing the world shift in ways that demand attention before time runs out? The sky ignites in unnatural colors, clouds twist into spiraling formations, and a blinding column of light surges upward as though reaching beyond the horizon. A perfect ring appears in the atmosphere, holds its shape, then dissolves without a trace. Moments later, the heavens seem to fracture, a jagged line tearing across the clouds, while glowing lights shimmer where they should never exist. Deep mechanical rumbles roll through the air, heavy enough to make people stop and stare. Far below, swarms rise and darken entire landscapes, moving like living shadows across the land. These scenes were captured in different places by different witnesses, yet they arrive with unsettling urgency. Each moment feels isolated at first glance, but together they form a pattern that is difficult to ignore. The sky shifts, the air vibrates, the earth responds, and the sense of normality begins to slip away. The question is no longer whether these events are strange, but whether they are connected to something far larger, unfolding in plain sight. So what are these signs pointing toward? And why do they seem to be increasing? To understand that, we need to step into the first moment, where the pattern quietly began. 1. Blood red dawn silences Los Angeles. Los Angeles awakened beneath a sky that felt profoundly different from an ordinary morning. Deep crimson streaks burned across the horizon, cutting through heavy clouds that pressed low over the city. Streets slowed, drivers hesitated, and early risers lifted their phones toward a sunrise that felt more like a warning than a beginning. The light did not settle softly. It intensified, spreading across rooftops and glass towers, turning the skyline into reflections of fire. The color appeared dense and deliberate, casting a red glow that silenced conversation. In that suspended moment, the city seemed to pause together, watching a dawn that carried weight beyond beauty, a dawn that felt intentional, almost like a message written across the heavens. Joel 2:30-31 described a scene that echoes with striking clarity. "And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord come." As images spread rapidly online, witnesses repeated the same observation. The crimson looked unusually deep, saturating the sky in a way many residents had never experienced. Some suggested smoke or atmospheric conditions, yet the uniform glow stretching across the horizon left uncertainty behind. The calm air felt heavy, and the stillness created tension, as though the city sensed something significant unfolding overhead. Luke 21:25 offered another warning that resonates with such moments. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. The red dawn seemed to align with that imagery, drawing attention upward and prompting reflection. The color lingered long enough for people to absorb its presence, then slowly softened. Yet the unease remained. Conversations continued even after the sky began to return to normal. The memory of that morning stayed vivid, not because it was beautiful, but because it felt purposeful. Sunrise usually brings comfort, yet this one stirred contemplation. The glowing sky invited people to pause and reconsider what they were witnessing. When the heavens shift in unexpected ways, many interpret the change as a gentle warning, a call to awareness and faith. The crimson faded, the city resumed its motion, but the impression did not disappear. And as the last traces of red dissolved into daylight, another sign was already forming elsewhere, preparing to deepen the message that had only just begun. 2. California skies glow with mysterious light. Night settled over the California coastline in calm silence, yet the darkness did not hold. Bands of luminous color emerged above the water, rippling softly in shifting shades that seemed guided by intention. The glow folded inward, then expanded again, forming smooth arcs that hovered over the horizon. People along the shore lifted their eyes, drawn into stillness by a display that felt peaceful yet unsettling. The lights did not flash like aircraft or flicker like distant storms. They moved slowly, pulsed gently, and transformed the sky into something reverent. Conversations faded, phones rose, and the coastline became a quiet audience beneath a living canvas. Many felt that the heavens were communicating in a language beyond words, leaving one pressing question lingering. Was this beauty meant only to be admired, or was it meant to be understood? Phones captured the scene, and within minutes, the footage spread widely. Viewers noticed the smooth motion resembling northern lights, yet appearing in a region where such displays are rare. The ocean mirrored the glow, doubling the colors and making the sky appear endless. Some observers whispered, others remained silent, and many simply watched. Psalm 19:1 declares the meaning behind such moments. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament sheweth his handiwork. The verse speaks of intention rather than coincidence. When unexpected light fills the sky, believers recognize the signature of the Creator. The gentle movement of those colors felt less like curiosity and more like a quiet proclamation stretching across the horizon. The glow continued for several minutes, steady and unhurried. Witnesses later described a calm presence mixed with subtle unease, beauty intertwined with warning. Isaiah 60:1 offers words that resonate with sudden illumination. Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. The passage frames light as revelation. When brightness appears unexpectedly, many see a call to awaken and reflect. The patterns formed and dissolved deliberately, like a message delivered gently yet firmly, drawing attention upward and stirring contemplation. Eventually, the lights faded and darkness returned to the coastline. Yet the impression lingered long after the glow disappeared. Conversations continued, shaped by wonder and reflection. Some felt peace, others sensed conviction, and many believed the moment carried meaning beyond explanation. When the heavens shine in unfamiliar ways, admiration quickly turns into awareness. The ocean grew still, the sky emptied, but the question remained vivid. And while the final traces of color vanished beyond the horizon, another sign was already forming elsewhere, ready to deepen the message written across the sky. 3. A perfect ring hangs over Florida. An ordinary evening drive through Florida suddenly shifted into something unforgettable. The road stretched quietly ahead until attention moved upward, drawn by a glowing formation above the clouds. A perfect circle hovered in the sky, luminous and still, shaped with precision that felt intentional. The ring did not flicker or drift apart. It remained suspended, steady against the darkening sky, resembling an entrance carved into the heavens. Conversations inside the vehicle stopped, and phones were raised instinctively. The glow contrasted with the fading light of dusk, creating the impression of a doorway opening silently above the world. Awe mixed with unease settled over those watching, as though something sacred had briefly revealed itself. The circle held firm, and one unsettling thought emerged. Why would the sky form something so precise at that exact moment? The circular shape remained unchanged, even while clouds shifted around it. Drivers slowed, some stepping out to observe more closely. The stillness deepened the atmosphere, turning a routine evening into a reflective pause. Ezekiel 1:28 provides imagery that many recall in such moments. As the appearance of the bow that is in the cloud on the day of rain, so was the appearance of the brightness round about. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. The verse speaks of brightness encircling the heavens, framing light as more than visual wonder. The glowing ring felt aligned with that imagery, encouraging reflection on whether the heavens were quietly revealing a sign. The ring eventually began to fade, dissolving into the surrounding clouds, yet the impression lingered. Silence followed its disappearance, leaving observers with a sense that something meaningful had passed. Revelation 4:3 offers another passage that frames circular brilliance within a spiritual context. And he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone, and there was a rainbow round about the throne, in sight like unto an emerald. The imagery of a radiant circle surrounding divine authority resonates strongly with symmetrical light in the sky. The formation in Florida appeared calm, yet its precision carried weight, suggesting intention rather than randomness. Moments like this often shift perspective. A ring above the clouds becomes more than curiosity. It becomes a reminder that the heavens can present symbols inviting attention and humility. Travelers returned to their journeys, yet the image stayed vivid in memory. When the sky forms a circle resembling an open gate, many interpret it as an invitation to look upward and reflect. The glowing ring vanished, but the sense of warning remained, subtle yet persistent. Clouds closed again over Florida, and just as normality returned, another light was already rising elsewhere, preparing to intensify the message written across the heavens. 4. Pillar of light pierces the city sky. A bright column of light suddenly rose from the top of a city building, piercing the sky with striking clarity. The beam stretched upward in a straight, unwavering line, appearing to connect the earth below with the blazing sun above. People stopped in place, pointing their cameras while the glow reflected across windows and streets. The light did not scatter or bend. It climbed vertically with precision, forming what many described as a pathway reaching beyond the visible world. The surrounding sky remained calm, making the column appear even more deliberate. Those who witnessed it felt awe mixed with reverence, sensing that the heavens had opened a silent passage. The sight seemed less like coincidence and more like a signal placed between humanity and the divine, prompting an urgent question. Was this a gentle invitation or the beginning of a warning? The footage spread quickly, yet the reaction remained deeply personal. The alignment of the beam with the sun created an image that felt purposeful, almost ceremonial. Genesis 28:12 recounts a vision that echoes with remarkable similarity. And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. The description of a connection between earth and heaven resonates strongly when a luminous column appears to bridge both realms. For believers, such a sight does not feel accidental. It resembles a reminder that communication between heaven and earth has always existed, guided by the will of God. The straight path of light carried symbolism of invitation, urging reflection on spiritual readiness. The beam remained visible long enough for observers to absorb its presence. No movement disturbed its structure, and its brightness appeared constant from base to summit. Psalm 84:11 offers a perspective many associate with radiant signs. For the Lord God is a sun and shield. The Lord will give grace and glory. No good thing will he withhold from them that walk uprightly. The verse places light and divine protection together, suggesting illumination as guidance. The column seemed less like spectacle and more like a declaration, a vertical message reminding viewers that the Creator still reveals himself through creation. The calm surrounding the beam intensified the solemn tone, turning the moment into a silent call to look upward. Eventually, the light faded, yet the impression remained strong. The image of a path reaching heaven lingered in memory, stirring thoughts about divine presence and responsibility. A beam connecting earth and sky invites contemplation about readiness, faith, and humility. When such signs appear, many interpret them as warnings delivered gently. The city resumed its rhythm, but the sense of significance did not disappear. The heavens had briefly revealed a connection, then withdrew it, leaving unanswered questions. The calm that followed felt fragile, as though something greater could unfold next. And while that radiant column dissolved into daylight, another movement in the sky was already forming, preparing to draw attention to an even more mysterious sign. 5. Clouds spiral into a living vortex. Clouds above the landscape near Geneva began shifting in a way that immediately captured attention, tightening instead of drifting, folding inward into a rotating formation that seemed guided by an unseen hand. The motion strengthened, pulling layers of cloud into a spiraling funnel that deepened in shape and intensity. People watching the sky felt sudden tension, sensing that something beyond ordinary weather was unfolding. The swirl expanded, then narrowed again, forming a vortex suspended in the air. A quiet heaviness settled over the atmosphere, and the sky no longer appeared passive. It looked active, deliberate, almost alive, as though creation itself had begun to move under divine command. The rotation continued without interruption, and anticipation built among those watching, as though the formation was preparing to reveal something unexpected. The movement intensified, and then a small point of light appeared near the base of the formation. The glowing object remained still for a brief instant, then accelerated upward with astonishing speed. It shot directly into the rotating clouds, disappearing into the center of the vortex. Gasps followed, and eyes remained fixed on the point where light and cloud merged, unsure whether anything else would emerge. Ezekiel 1-4 describes a vision that resonates with such scenes. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself. And a brightness was about it. The description of a whirlwind filled with brightness echoes strongly when clouds rotate and light enters the center. For believers, such imagery suggests the sky can become a stage where divine signs unfold, urging humanity to pay attention. The vortex held its structure for several seconds after the light vanished, then slowly loosened, its edges softening before dissolving into ordinary clouds. Yet the moment left a profound impression. The combination of swirling motion and descending light created an atmosphere both majestic and unsettling. Nahum 1-3 presents another passage often recalled during such scenes. The Lord hath his way in the whirlwind and in the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet. The verse frames whirlwinds as expressions of divine authority, reinforcing the idea that sudden movements in the sky can carry spiritual significance. The swirl above Geneva formed, intensified, and released, as though a message had been delivered and then withdrawn. Observers remained silent even after the sky returned to calm. The memory of the vortex lingered, stirring thoughts about the power governing creation. When clouds twist into a spiral and light vanishes within it, many see more than spectacle. They see a reminder that humanity does not control the heavens. Such moments encourage reflection, humility, and renewed faith. The swirl faded, yet unease persisted, pressing the mind toward deeper questions. Calm returned slowly, but tension did not fully disappear. And while the clouds drifted apart once more, another dramatic shift in the sky was already preparing to reveal itself, ready to intensify the warning that had begun to unfold. 6. Texas sky splits with jagged precision. Above Austin, Texas, the sky appeared calm until a jagged line suddenly tore across the clouds. It did not resemble lightning or a passing contrail. It looked like the heavens themselves had been ripped open. The rupture stretched wide, dividing the cloud layer into two sharp halves. Witnesses froze, their eyes drawn to a formation that felt forceful, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. The line held steady against the pale sky, a stark boundary etched above the city. The air felt unusually still, amplifying the tension. Ordinary routines paused as observers sensed something far beyond a natural occurrence was unfolding. Hearts pounded, breaths slowed, and the sky demanded attention. The split extended across a vast expanse, lingering long enough for people to capture footage and share it widely. Its edges were unnervingly precise, as if a celestial hand had drawn them. Isaiah 64:1 echoes this vision. "Oh, that thou wouldest rend the heavens, that thou wouldest come down, that the mountains might flow down at thy presence. For believers, such imagery resonates with the idea that creation itself can signal divine authority. The scene felt solemn, charged, as though humanity had glimpsed a warning in plain sight, a moment to pause, reflect, and consider the unseen forces shaping the world. The rupture remained for several tense seconds before gradually softening, yet its impact did not fade. Witnesses spoke of awe mixed with unease, an inexplicable certainty that something significant had transpired. Matthew 27-51 records another profound tearing, and, behold, the veil of the temple was torn in twain from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent. The crack above Texas seemed to echo that dramatic symbolism, a sky-level signal of revelation, transition, or warning. Observers could not shake the feeling that they had witnessed more than mere weather. This was a moment written across the heavens, demanding reflection and attention. As the sky gradually returned to normal, the emotional resonance lingered. A torn sky challenges the sense of human control, reminding people of forces far greater than themselves. The division closed, but unease remained, pressing hearts toward awareness, humility, and contemplation. The city resumed its rhythm, yet eyes kept drifting upward, searching for signs, waiting for the next shift. And while the visible rupture above Texas faded from view, elsewhere, another presence had already begun to rise, preparing to draw attention once more, not from the clouds, but from movements across the earth itself, hinting that the unfolding pattern was far from complete. 7. 5 discs rise in silent formation. Over the quiet horizon of Manatulan Island, the air seemed calm until movement appeared above a distant ridge. Slowly, 5 disc-shaped objects rose into view, lifting from behind the land with measured steadiness. They did not dart or flash. Each ascended gently, keeping precise distance from the others, almost like a formation guided by intention. Witnesses fell silent, eyes fixed on the hovering shapes against the pale sky. Light reflected softly off their surfaces, neither metallic nor transparent, leaving observers uncertain yet captivated. Something about the scene felt deliberate, a message framed in motion. The slow emergence held attention, building quiet tension as the unusual sight unfolded. The discs maintained their symmetry, rising steadily in perfect alignment. Each movement appeared purposeful, almost choreographed, suggesting intelligence behind the pattern. Ezekiel 1:16 evokes imagery that resonates here. The appearance of the wheels and their work was like unto the color of a beryl, and they 4 had one likeness. 2. And their appearance and their work was as if it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. Circular forms moving in unity have long symbolized order and divine design. Observers felt the formation above the island was no accident, as if creation itself were showing a pattern meant to be noticed. Eyes remained fixed, hearts stirred, and minds quietly questioned what these objects signified. The discs hovered briefly, then continued upward, shrinking against the sky. No sound accompanied them, only stillness that deepened the moment. Daniel 7:13 offers imagery for reflection. I saw in the night visions, and, behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, movement in the heavens, and, coupled with silence and precision, stirred awe and contemplation. The slow ascent felt less like spectacle and more like an invitation to look upward with humility. Something intentional seemed behind their motion, leaving witnesses sensing purpose beyond human understanding. As the objects disappeared into the distance, a mix of wonder and introspection lingered. 5 shapes rising in unison, then vanishing, impressed observers with a quiet, lasting significance. The sky returned to normal, yet the sense of order and divine presence remained palpable. People pondered whether these forms were reminders of a greater authority guiding the world. The scene ended peacefully, but unease and reflection persisted. And while the final disc faded into the horizon, elsewhere another sign was already forming, preparing to draw attention to a place of profound spiritual weight, hinting that the pattern unfolding above Manatulan Island was far from complete. 8. Glowing light hovers over Medina. Above a sacred place filled with prayer and devotion, a glowing object appeared, holding its position in the sky with unusual stillness. Worshippers gathered below lifted their eyes toward the minaret, noticing the light suspended, as if it belonged neither to earth nor heaven. The atmosphere already carried reverence, yet the luminous point deepened the solemnity. It did not streak across the sky or fade quickly. It remained silent, watchful, commanding attention. Many stood frozen, mid-step, hearts pounding, sensing that something meaningful was unfolding. The glow was gentle, yet its stillness carried weight, transforming a routine moment of worship into a scene of heightened awareness. The object lingered long enough for numerous witnesses to record it. Its brightness contrasted sharply with the surrounding night sky, drawing all focus directly above a site already known for devotion. Psalm 102-1920 speaks to such divine observation, for he hath looked down from the height of his sanctuary. From heaven did the Lord behold the earth, to hear the groaning of the prisoner, to loose those that are appointed to death. The hovering light felt intentional, a reminder that the heavens are watching, urging reflection and humility. The silence surrounding it amplified the gravity of the moment, creating a pause that felt both sacred and tense. The glow remained steady, neither approaching nor retreating. Its quiet presence intensified reverence, while a subtle unease threaded through the crowd. Hebrews 12:28-29 resonates with such moments. Wherefore, we receive a kingdom which cannot be moved. Let us have grace, whereby we may serve God acceptably with reverence and godly fear. For our God is a consuming fire. The luminous point seemed to embody that divine fire, not in destruction, but in solemn invitation. Hearts lifted instinctively, contemplating faith and devotion. The hovering object created awe, not panic, guiding attention to the sacredness of the place and hinting at a silent message sent from above. Eventually, the glow faded, yet its impact lingered. Witnesses described a mixture of awe and unease, sensing significance beyond explanation. The light above Medina invited reflection on faith, humility, and readiness. The night returned to calm, but the memory of that suspended radiance remained, etched into minds and hearts. Many stayed motionless, long after it vanished, caught between wonder and apprehension. And while the luminous point disappeared into darkness, another signal was already stirring elsewhere, preparing to shift attention from silent illumination to a warning that would reach across the skies with sound and urgency, demanding notice from all who looked upward. 9. Salvador trembles under a rumbling sky. The evening sky over Salvador did not remain quiet. A deep, relentless rumble rolled above the city, vibrating through streets and homes. People stepped outside, searching the clouds as unease spread from face to face. The sound resembled a massive force, moving beyond sight, steady and commanding attention. It did not fade quickly. It lingered, echoing like a proclamation carried across the heavens. Many felt the ground beneath their feet shift subtly, hearts tightening as the noise continued without visible source. The moment felt less like a natural occurrence and more like a call meant to be heard, awakening a sense that the sky itself was speaking with authority. Reports emerged from distant regions, each telling a similar story. Residents elsewhere described identical rumbling tones shaking their surroundings on the same day. Radios crackled, signals distorted, and confusion spread among listeners. People fell silent, listening as the sound unified witnesses across borders, reinforcing the impression of a message spanning the world. Revelation 8:13 offers a warning tied to such heavenly proclamation. And I beheld, and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, 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 to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels, which are yet to sound. The imagery of voices carried through heaven resonates with the unsettling rumble. Believers recognize Scripture's warnings as divine announcements that demand attention. The intensity of the sound stirred dread and reflection at once. Some compared it to a trumpet, others to a colossal engine, yet all agreed on its overwhelming presence. 1 Thessalonians 4:16 declares the authority of such a moment. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God. And the dead in Christ shall rise first. The concept of a heavenly trumpet transforms the rumbling into something profoundly spiritual. The noise seemed less like chaos and more like a summons, pressing hearts to consider readiness before God. Fear blended with reverence, leaving witnesses silent after the echoes faded. The sky returned to stillness, yet the tension lingered. And while the rumble dissolved into calm, another sign was already forming elsewhere. preparing to deliver a final moment that would deepen the sense of urgency across the world. 10. Locust swarms darken the horizon. Across vast regions, swarms of locusts rose again, darkening skies and swallowing fields in moments. Farmers watched crops vanish beneath moving clouds of wings, the land stripped bare with alarming speed. Entire harvests disappeared, leaving silence where abundance once stood. The scale was overwhelming. Billions of insects covering roads, trees, and villages. The scenes felt ancient yet immediate, stirring reflection on divine authority over creation. Joel 1-4 captures the relentless devastation. That which the palmer worm hath left, hath the locust eaten, and that which the locust hath left, hath the cankerworm eaten. And that which the cankerworm hath left, hath the caterpillar eaten. The passage mirrors the relentless waves, consuming everything, portraying judgment unfolding step by step. Communities felt both awe and dread as the swarms moved steadily, leaving barren